Man, I was looking at my phone this morning, looking at this vintage leather jacket I picked up, and it got me thinking about things that actually hold their value. Things that aren't just, flash in the pan trends. And it hit me like, why are we still out here killing ourselves chasing these micro pennies on streaming platforms? It's wild to me. We are out here playing a rigged game. Let's just do some quick, ugly math right out of the gate. To pocket a split of, say, $15,000 on Spotify, you need roughly 4 million streams. 4 million. Let that number sit in your head for a second. You gotta convince 4 million human beings to click play on your track just to split a check that wouldn't even cover a decent down payment on a reliable car. Or, look at the alternative. You land one single 15-second sync placement in an EA Sports video game, or maybe an HBO promo. Boom, $15,000 up front, plus those compounding back-end royalties that keep hitting your mailbox quarter after quarter. That is the difference between surviving and actually building. Welcome to the Legacy Blueprint, y'all. I'm DJ Universe, and we are opening up the mic today for the independent builders, the ones who are ready to stop playing small. You know my story started from absolutely nothing back in Ohio, packed it up, moved down to Florida, built my management empire from the ground up, from scratch. No stuttering, no hype, just real blueprints for people with a dream. And today, we are talking about shifting your entire mindset from being a renter to being a landlord. See, when you just throw MP3s on these streaming platforms and hope for the best, you are renting space on someone else's digital playground. But when you treat your music catalog like commercial real estate, that is the ultimate cheat code for 2026. We are talking about transforming your tracks from random, forgotten files on a hard drive into highly licensable, pre-cleared creative assets. Assets that are literally optimized so major television, film, and sports networks can write you a massive check without having to jump through a million legal hoops. That is how we transition from the hustle to the legacy. But here is the thing, and I need you to hear me on this. If you want to get into this world, you have to understand how music supervisors actually work. They do not have time to play games. They live and die by what we call one-stop clearance. If you don't know what that means, it's simple, but absolutely lethal if you get it wrong. One stop means the music supervisor can clear the entire track with one single phone call or one email. You or your representative must own 100% of both the master recording rights, that is the actual sound file, and the publishing rights, which is the underlying composition. Or, if you don't own all of it yourself, you must have signed ironclad, prearranged legal agreements with every single co-writer, producer, and session musician who touched that track. If a supervisor has to track down some random producer's cousin in Atlanta who wrote 2 lines of the bridge just to get a signature, they are skipping your song. Period. In fact, bad metadata or uncleared samples, it doesn't just slightly lower your odds, it removes you from the conversation altogether. That is an absolute fact. If your track has an uncleared splice sample, a rogue loop you bought online without checking the license, or if you've got 5 unresponsive co-producers who won't return a text, your pitch is dead on arrival. Supervisors will literally delete your email the second they smell a clearance issue. You have got to have your contracts and your split sheets completely clean before you ever pitch a single note. And let's talk about how these supervisors actually find music in 2026. They aren't sitting around scrolling through social media hoping to discover you. They are using search engines on platforms like Disco and Songtradr. They run incredibly precise queries. They will type in something like triumphant brass heavy trap, 92 BPM, key of F minor, explicit free, solo male vocals. If a supervisor searches for exactly that and your track fits that vibe perfectly, but your tags are completely blank, you don't exist to them. Your song is invisible. It's a ghost. I actually saw this happen to an incredibly talented independent hip-hop artist a while back. Man, it was a tragedy. This kid had a track that a supervisor wanted to use for a major network sports promo. It would have been a life-changing sync placement, thousands of dollars up front, massive exposure. But when the supervisor downloaded the file, there was no contact information embedded in the MP3 comments. None. No email, no phone number, no publisher info. The supervisor tried to find them on Instagram, couldn't get a quick response, and within 10 minutes, they just moved on to the next track. 10 minutes. That is how fast the window closes when you aren't prepared. So, how do we make sure that never happens to you? You need a technical blueprint for your deliverables. Every single time you walk out of Everlasting Impression Studios, or wherever you record, you need to demand a specific delivery package from your engineer. Do not leave the studio without these files. First, you need the main mix, obviously. Second, you need the clean or radio edit, because a lot of TV networks cannot air explicit lyrics. Third, and this is absolutely non-negotiable, you need the instrumental mix. Why? Because music editors need instrumentals to play under dialogue. If a character is talking, they can't have your vocals fighting with their script. Instrumentals should be the basic song without vocals. And finally, you must have the stems. Stems are the basics, the grouped elements of your track exported individually. You need the vocal stem, the bass stem, the drum stem, and the melodic instrument stem. Why? Because if a director loves your beat, but the vocals are distracting during a specific scene, the music editor can take those stems and cut the music to picture perfectly right there in their editing bay. If you don't have those stems ready to ship on demand, you are leaving money on the table. Once you have those files, you have to handle the metadata tagging protocol. This is where platforms like Disco become your best friend. You need to embed what I call the metadata holy trinity directly into your audio files. That is the BPM, the musical key, and the clearance details. I am talking about putting a note in the comments section that says, verbatim, 100% one-stop cleared, down by lawmanagementllc.com. You make it that easy for them, and you are already ahead of 90% of the independent artists out there. And do not forget the back end. You must register your musical compositions with performance rights organizations like ASCAP, BMI, or SESAC. Every single time your licensed music broadcasts globally on TV, in a movie, or on sports networks, those public performances generate royalties. If you aren't registered with a PRO, that money just sits in a black box and eventually you lose it. You have to set up the pipeline to catch the water before it starts raining. But look, while we are waiting on Hollywood to call, we need to be building our own networks. Why are we begging for a seat at someone else's table when we can build our own? That is exactly why we created the Hip Hop Hero League TV network on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. It is about owned media networks. We are putting independent artists directly onto the screen, creating our own sync visibility, and building genuine brand equity on our own terms. We are taking control of the distribution. And speaking of taking control, we need to talk about how you present yourself in the real world when you run into these industry players. If you are still handing out those paper business cards that end up in the trash, or if you're telling people to go to some messy link in bio tool with 20 different distracting links, you are killing your professional image. You need to upgrade to a digital handshake. I use a sleek Smart Cards digital business card. You tap their phone and instantly, boom, you deliver a single clean link to your pre-cleared, fully tagged licensing library. It looks incredibly professional, it's instant, and it actually works. This is all about establishing your legal and operational infrastructure so you look like a major label executive from day one. That is why we built the free tools over at Down by Law Management LLC. We want to give you the exact framework to set up your business properly. Go look at the Legacy Makers feature video we put out. It shows the real transition of artists who stopped acting like short-term hustlers chasing a temporary viral moment and started operating like catalog owners who are focused on building sustainable generational wealth. It's a complete shift in how you move. See, viral trends decay. They always do. An algorithm changes. A platform dies. And suddenly that viral video you spent weeks stressing over doesn't do anything for your bank account. But a robust, pre-cleared, highly targeted niche catalog, that compounds. It keeps working for you while you sleep, feeding your bank account through passive licensing revenue year after year. You have to move past the identity of just selling songs. You aren't just a musician making background noise. You are a catalog mogul licensing highly valuable cultural intellectual property. That is the legacy mindset. Luck in this industry, look, it's unpredictable. We know this. You can't control when a supervisor needs your exact sound. But your business preparation? That is 100% within your control. The work you put into organizing your split sheets, exporting your stems, and tagging your metadata today, that is the inheritance your grandchildren are going to collect tomorrow. That is the real work. If you are ready to stop chasing those empty streams and start building a real profitable career as an independent artist, go to downbylawmanagementllc.com and download the free Independent Artist Growth Blueprint right now. Get your business right, then shoot me a message on Instagram with the word blueprint. No hype, my people, just legacy. Keep building your empire one move at a time. Talk soon.